Hi, my name is Goldman. I'm the director and founder of Goldman and Associates. Our firm has a primary focus on family law issues here in Michigan. And today we're going to continue our video series designed to educate and inform the public, so please subscribe to our channel. I want to talk today about someone who gets pregnant during a divorce where the pregnancy is outside the marriage. How does that affect things? And here's the scenario. Two people are going through a divorce. They're separated. They started socializing, and wouldn't you know it, you have to understand one thing. There is a presumption of paternity in favor of the marriage as long as couples are married. That means up until the time that the judge signs the final judgment of divorce, the presumption is that those parties are A, still married, which is a fact, and B, that any child born or any pregnancy achieved during that time is a pregnancy of the marriage. So that has implications. Number one, the court would have to determine custody, parenting time, and number two, the court would have to determine support. Would there be support? Who would pay the support? How much will the support be? Now, what's interesting is that's a presumption. That means that if the reality is different than the presumption, if in fact we know, either by taking appropriate DNA testing or otherwise, we know that the child born during the marriage was in fact not a product of that union, well, then a couple things have to happen. Number one, the court has to make a finding of fact that this child is not a product of that union, so that there won't be later on implications regarding parenting time and child support and all that. So that's going to be a thing. In order to do that, the judgment of divorce, in order for this to be done appropriately, should specify that this child X, while born during the marriage, is in fact not a product of the marriage, and their support and other rights and duties do not attach to that child. A lot of times people will say, well, we had this child, but we were all separated and we know that that's not our kid. Or sometimes you'll have a union where the parties were not even together at the time that the woman becomes pregnant. They met during the pregnancy, and then they got married during the pregnancy. Short engagement. They get married during the pregnancy. Well, what happens in a later divorce? They'll say, well, we presume it's our child. I've raised the child, this and that. There is a presumption. However, that presumption can be rebutted, and the consequences are serious, because in the scenario that I just said, for example, suppose some guy meets a girl who's already pregnant, didn't even know she was pregnant at the time. She knew, but he didn't know. And later on, it's obvious that she's pregnant, and they decide to get married, so the child will have a father figure. They don't think for a minute that they're going to end up divorced. And then later on, 5 years down the road, this kid has not known anybody but that father. All of a sudden, mom says, hey, this is not your kid. This is not a child of the marriage. What do we do? Well, theoretically, the father has got the upper hand because the child was born during the marriage. However, that's only a presumption. That can be rebutted with proof that, in fact, it's not a product of that union. However, in that particular case, the child, through advocates for the child, and the father may be able to say, yes, I may not be the biological father, but I'm the putative father, and therefore I have certain rights. I'm the legal father because we don't want to bastardize this child, and there are no rights attached. And now all of a sudden, the one person who the child thought was his father, because that's the narrative that they're always told, now they're going to tell him that, no, that's not your father, that guy's a nobody to you? I don't think so. So the court has ways of working around that, but be aware that with respect to a child that's conceived before the marriage, but in fact born during a marriage or whatever, conceived and born, while the parties are separated, there are implications one way or another, and it's certainly something that the court has to address. If you have any questions about your case, reach out, and we'll be glad to help you out.